on the 24 peg loom, and this means you can use any 24 peg loom, any 24 peg loom, no joke. 3/8, 24 and a half inch, 5/8 inch, any 24 peg loom, just so long as you use a yarn equivalent, okay? And if you have this book, I explain what yarn equivalent is in there, okay? I'm using the 4th inch 24 peg loom from Cindy Wood. Now, this is a special order here, but you can use your universal sock loom and set it up for 24 pegs. It doesn't cost much to order in a 24 peg 4th inch gauge. It makes keychain size animals if you want to do this, okay? So what you're wanting to do is you want to get a yarn equivalent. This is, I think, a fingering weight or a sport weight, which is number 2. And so the pig is done all in one piece. And if you've done my 12 peg loom, this is a larger version. And you can E-wrap the whole thing if you want. Just make sure you use a particularly thick yarn if you're going to E-wrap. But I always like to knit because I find that the actual animal gets to be stuffed firmer. So what it says to do is it starts off we're going to work from the bottom to the front. And you're going to want to start off working a drawstring cast on circularly with all 24 peg looms. I'm sorry, I have not been able to have quiet time since the quarantine began. So that is my special needs brother in the background that you're hearing. He loves to make noise. He's got a funny sense of humor. All right, so circular drawstring cast on, which means weave in and out, okay, and then toss the bottom loop over. All right, this is a drawstring cast on, okay. Now, once you get the drawstring cast on done on all 24 pegs circularly, it says to knit for 6 rows, okay. And that's pretty self-explanatory. It's when you start getting to a lot of the legs, which will be a repeat section, that it will get a little more complicated. And because this is small, I'm not one who is going to want to sew up later. So I'm going to show you the technique I use so that I don't have to sew anything up. All right, so we've already done our cast on, and what's next is row 1 through 6 is to knit, and row 7 is to purl. All right, so pretty easy. And actually on row 7, I'll show you how to add a tail. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to knit around for 6 rows, okay? So what I'm making, what you're seeing me make, is a keychain size stuffed animal. And again, you can special order in the 24 peg 4th inch gauge from Cindy Wood, or you can take the universal sock loom and work it to 24 pegs. So I find that most people translate these animal patterns easier on a regular round 24 peg loom rather than on a universal loom. I had done a series with the X loom, and many people got confused, even though it's no different. Many people got confused, so I'm going to be setting up a little bit different of a filming to start making it a little easier with some of these others, and so I can pick up the pace and have more animals filmed from the book so that I can start working on patterns for the new book that I have planned. It won't be probably for another year, but I have huge plans to put out another 50 animal book, including fresh new notes. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, get 6 rows done, and then we'll stop, come back, and I'll show you row 7. Okay, we've completed our 6 rows. We're ready to do our row 7, and I'd like to go ahead and kind of work in a tail rather than do it afterwards, and I'll show you how to do that, but I didn't write it into the pattern. Okay, so this is kind of like my own addition to show you how to do that. Okay, so what I've got to keep in mind is if I'm knitting, I need to figure out where my legs are. And so I think my legs are back here. So if I knit 6 and then a leg, and knit 6. Okay, so my tail is going to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work across these 2 pegs here. Now this is not written in, just so you know, if you've got the book, it's not written in. This is my own little thing, all right? So I'm going to take 2 stitches. I'm going to work my own little kind of I-cord. If you want the tail to be a little bigger, you can do that, but I'm not going to bother. All right, so I'm going to go up underneath that stitch marker. All right. Okay, so there's 1. Here is 2. And here is 3. And 4. And 5. And 6. And 7. And 8. And 9. And 10. 11. And 12. I'm going to do 12. If you want it longer, you can do it longer. Now, this is where I will need scissors. Okay. And I'll explain why. So, we'll get some scissors. Cut it kind of long because we need to weave it in later. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a drawstring bind off. Okay. So you're going to toss that over, pull through. And toss that over and pull through. Okay. And you have a little tail here. See? Cute little tail. If you want it longer, you can make it longer. Alright, what you want to do with that now is you want to try to shove that down through the middle. Okay? And then you want to bring back up those original stitches. Alright? This is just a little trick if you don't want to do a short row tail. Okay? I'm going to pull that through. There you go. Got your little tail. Now you got to worry about it. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You can just do it later. Okay. Now, what we'll need to do is we'll need to add. And I'm just going to do a little slip knot. I'm going to add back. Okay. And this is where I'm going to take this below it to purl it. Okay. And then you can go in and tighten up that stitch because the row is supposed to be purled. Okay. So now that we've done our little tail, now what we want to do is just purl the row. Okay. So you'll go ahead and pause the video and purl the row. We'll be ready to start on row 8, which will be a leg row. Okay. Okay, we are to our next section, which is row 8. Okay, so what we are going to do, and what it says to do, is you're going to knit 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, when you see leg, look for BOLB. Okay. Now what you see is you see knit 6 for 30 rows, bring original loops back on peg 1 and 6. This is important. Okay, so you know you're going to need to bring your original loop back on peg 1 and 6. So here is stitch 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stitch 6. Alright. This will make it easier to find those original loops. Alright, so what it's saying to do, and here's the thing, is that it says for 30 rows, but the thing is I'm working with a pretty small gauge here, and honestly I don't really want to have to sew it up later. So I'm going to show you a trick. Now you don't have to do this. It says to knit 6 for 30 rows. Just go back and forth over these 6 stitches for 30 rows. Alright, you don't have to do what I'm fixing to show you how to do. You can make it a lot easier. So there's 1. Okay, and then I'm going to be slipping on the end. And so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just go back and forth for 30 rows, or every time you slip a stitch, you add a stitch marker. And so I slipped one over here. I'm going to add a stitch marker. Okay, I'm going to slip this stitch. Now I know I've done 2 rows, and this is going to be row 3. Okay, and toss it. So I'm going to want to add a stitch marker there, and that slip stitch on the end. Okay, and when I do that, I want to send that working yarn up under the stitch marker, and that gives a little bit more space when you go to bring it back up. Okay, and then this is going to be row 4. All right, so if you're doing it this way, you're going to do the 15 rows. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start adding back, and then you don't have to count it out so much. Okay, if you're doing it the other way, just do 30 rows back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 30 rows. Then you're going to bring those original stitches back. Okay, like we had marked off to start off. Okay, so I'm going to show you again. You're going to send it up under, and then you're going to knit your way over, and this is going to be row 5. Okay, make sure you don't forget to put your stitch marker in. Okay, so you put your little stitch marker there. Alright, and then we're going to go up under that stitch marker, and we're going to knit our way over. Okay, so this is going to be row 6. You may want to get you a little row counter just to make sure you keep it track. Okay, so what you want to do is go ahead and pause the video and get either your 30 rows or 15 rows. If you're doing this method, it's 15 rows. If you're doing the other, just do 30 rows. We'll come back. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video, get your 15 rows done, and I'll show you how to start using these stitch markers to where you don't have to sew up the legs. Okay, and so you know you don't have to do a stitch marker when you do the when you start doing row 14, you don't have to put a stitch marker here, so that when you come back and do row 15, you just don't. Okay, so you see this looks like a jumbled mess. What you're going to look for is the closest stitch marker to the peg, okay, which is going to be this one here. Alright, well what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to bring it back. Okay, so you're going to bring it back up. You're going to slip that first stitch, and you're going to knit your way over, and you're going to knit those 2 stitches together. See, you can get those two together. Then what you want to do is you want to find the next stitch here, and you want to pull it up, the one that's closest to the peg. Pull it up and pull it over. Okay? Take the stitch marker off, slip that first stitch, and knit your way over. And then knit the two together. Then you're going to add the next closest one, which is this one, and you're going to pull it back. Slip the first stitch and knit your way over, knit the two together. Okay, then you're going to add the next stitch, slip that first stitch, knit your way over, knit the two together. And you're going to continue this until you have the two original stitch markers left that you had added on your original stitches. You're going to stop there when you get to that point, okay? And so go ahead and pause the video, do what we're doing, continue it until you're down to your original two, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, and what you may find is when you get down to those last two, somehow you're over here. If you look real closely, you'll have another chain. Let's see if I can get it to show. Okay, if you look real closely, you have another chain here. You can pull that up. Okay, and then you slip and you knit your way over. Okay, knit two together. All right, and knit two together. Okay, so you either just knitted your 30 rows or you've just done what I've done, which is split the rows in half and slowly add the other half back while you're doing it. What that does is it closes it off so that you don't have to sew it up later. That being said, what it says to do then is to bring the original loops back on pegs 1 and 6. So you're just going to bring those back. And then what it says to do is to knit two together, knit 4, knit two together, and your leg is completed. Okay? So what you're going to do, knit two together, knit 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then knit two together. Now, let me show you what you have. You have this cute little leg here. Look at that. You see that little leg? Well, guess what you can do? You can stick that in there. See? There's no sewing required. You see that? None. You've already sewn up the leg. Okay. Now, here's an option, because this is such a small little creature I'm making right now. You could go ahead and stick your little stuffing in there in the legs so that you don't have to worry about trying to stuff legs later. You could go ahead and do that. So you should have a little tail here, as you can see, a nice leg here. And you're going to repeat exactly what we just did with this leg right here in the next 6 stitches. Okay? So I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to tell you to go off and do your other leg. Okay? And then what it says after you complete the other leg is to knit 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Alrighty. So there's your bring original loops back next, okay? So at this point, what you want to do is you want to repeat exactly what we did just right here with this leg, right here in the next 6 stitches. Okay, so you're going to repeat exactly what you did here, here. Alright, then you're going to knit 6 to finish the row. Okay? Alright, and then it gets easy from here, and then we're going to do another leg row, and then it's going to start working the head. So the pig is actually all one piece. And it actually works up pretty fast because it is all one piece. There's not a whole lot of sewing it out at all. In fact, if you do it the method I'm doing it, the only thing you should have to sew up is the bottom of the head, the snout area, okay? If you do it the way I'm doing it here, that's the only section you should have to sew, okay? So what you want to do is go ahead and pause the video, complete your other leg, just like we did here, and then go ahead and knit your 6. And when we come back, we should be ready to do rows 9 through 26, which is knit. And if you feel that's pretty self-explanatory, then go ahead and knit rows 9 through 6, and then repeat this row, row 8, what we just did. And then it says to knit row 28 through 35, which means this is probably pretty self-explanatory up until you get to row 36, okay? So if you feel good about this, here's how it works. You finish your leg and you knit over 6. Then you knit rows 9 through 26. Then you repeat this row with the legs, exactly like we just did, for row 27. And then you're going to knit rows 28 through 35 on the pattern, okay? So that's actually a pretty self-explanatory kind of thing. Alright, so what I'm going to do is when I come back, I'm actually going to be starting on row 36, okay? Because everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. We've already done it, okay? So let me kind of show that in camera so that you know what you're looking at, okay? So here's the row we just did, row 8, and you can see that it has the leg. Okay, and then we just did the leg, and I showed you how to do the leg, and then it says leg, and then it says knit 6, and then it has the row 9 through 26 knit, and then it says row 23, 27 repeat row 8. So you're going to come back up here and you're going to repeat this. So you can just go back into the video and find exactly where you're at. Then it says to knit row 28 through 35. Okay, so those are pretty self-explanatory, particularly when I've already shown you what this row is. Row 27 is the same row as what we've just completed. Okay, and then straight out knit, nothing special. Straight out knit, nothing special. So when we come back on the video, we should be on row 36. Okay, so pause the video and get your body done and half of your head, and we'll be ready to start on the face and the ears, as you can see. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video. So what you're doing is you're completing up to here on your pig, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and get that much done, and then we'll be ready to start on the face. Okay, as you can see, we finished the set of legs here. We did the rows there, which is row 9 through 26 here. We repeated row 8 on row 27, which is here. I went ahead and stuffed the legs because they can be a little bit more difficult to stuff once you start doing the head. So I also did my rows 28 through 35, and I'm now ready to do row 28 through 35, and I'm now ready to do row 36. And this row has the ears, okay? So what it says to do, it says to knit 1. All right, and it says you're going to knit 5 for 8 rows, knit 4, knit 3, knit 2, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4, knit 5 for 8 rows, bring original loops back. What this means is you're going to need to put 4 stitch markers down, because you're going to need 5 stitch markers. That's what you're starting with. Okay? So, what you want to do, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Now, what comes next? It says knit 5 for 8 rows. Okay. So this is row 1. This is row 2. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, then you see a weird section where it says to knit 4, knit 3, knit 2, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, knit 4. Alright, so here's how this goes. Start with this one. So knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit 3. 1, 2, 3. Knit 2. 1, 2. Knit 1. Then knit 2. 1, 2. Then knit 3. 1, 2, 3. Then knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it says to knit 5 for 8 rows. So here is row 1. Row 2. Row 3. Row 4. Row 5. Row 6. Row 7. And row 8. Then it says to bring the original loops back. I'm going to try to do this in order. Okay, so here in 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Shall look nice and neat, nothing tangled. Okay, then you're going to take those stitch markers off. Alright, make a note. You're going to repeat this again. Alright, just like you just go back in the video where I started the ear and you repeat this exact same thing. Now, what you might be able to do, I don't know. You see that ear I just pulled? There's your ear. Alright. So what it says to do, it says to knit 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright. Then it says to do an ear. And what you do, you go right back in the video and you do the exact same thing that I just did, the first ear with the second ear in the next 5 stitches. Okay? What this will do is complete row 36. Alright? So, I'm going to tell you to pause the video, complete row 36, do your ear, bring your original loops back, and knit 1. Then we'll be ready to do row 37, and this is where we're going to start changing up how we are doing things. Okay? Pause the video, get that much done. Okay, I have completed 2 little ears. Let's see if I can pull this one up. There's an ear. Okay, and there's an ear. Alright, so I've completed 2 ears. Now, we are on row 37. It says to knit 1, knit 2 together 5 times, and knit 6, and start working flat. What this means, knit 1, knit 2 together 5 times. Here's 1. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5, then knit 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. Now it says to not start working flat. What this means, you're going to start working back the other direction. Okay, and so we're on row 38. What it says to do then is to knit 13, knit 2 together 5 times, knit 6. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then knit 2 together 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then knit 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. At this point, this is where it's going to be changing up. You're going to be knitting the head, more of the face. Alright. You're going to be knitting back and forth rows 39 through 43. Which means you're going to be knitting for 5 rows back and forth from this new starting point. Okay. If you need to mark it, you can mark it with a stitch marker. Okay. I generally start seeing the breakup. Okay. So this is your new starting point here. If you need to put a stitch marker or put a mark on it, do so. Right? But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be working flat back and forth for 5 rows. Okay, so we're working row 1 right now. Okay, and you should already starting to see an opening develop, which is why I don't generally have to put in a stitch marker when I'm working. Okay, so that's row 1. We're going to come back this way and start on row 2. You're going to do this for a total of 5 rows, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and complete your 5 rows back and forth. So this is row 2. So 5 rows back and forth. You're opening this up so that you're ready to prep for an internal decrease where you go from 12 stitches to 24 stitches to 12 stitches, okay? Let's go ahead and pause the video, get your 5 rows done. We'll come back, we'll do the internal decrease. We are winding down, we are almost done with this. Okay, you can see the opening here. So we should be able to do our internal decrease pretty easily. You see your body here really working up. And then you see your little ears here. Okay, so you see your ears right here. Alright, so internal decrease can be done a number of ways. Probably most people would prefer to do it this way without lifting up a whole bunch of stitches. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to decrease from 24 stitches to 12. So what you want to do is you want to lift that stitch up, move it over, and knit 2 together. Okay, this first one will probably give you a little trouble. Okay, knit the 2 together. And you want to take the next stitch, move it over one, and knit the 2 together. Pick up the next stitch, move it over one, knit the 2 together. You're going to do this all the way around. Okay, pick that up, move it over, knit the 2 together. You're still going to have to lift stitches. Pick it up, move it over, knit the 2 together. Pick it up, knit it over, knit the 2 together. Okay, so I'm basically halfway done here. I'm going to pick up those stitches and place them side by side. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten those stitches up, which is important. You need to tighten those stitches up. Alright, the good news about doing it this way, your stitches are loose, they're easy to pick up, they're easy to move. Okay, now what you have to do next is tighten those stitches. Go pretty tight, okay? Because this is your cinching area where you start your snout. You want that to be pretty tight, okay? As you can see, you just decreased by 6. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to continue this method and knit the 2 together. Decrease and knit the 2 together. Decrease and knit the 2 together. Decrease, knit the 2 together. Decrease, knit the 2 together, and I usually just take that outer one in, move it over. And knit the 2 together. At this point, what you want to do is you want to lift up those stitches. And you want to place them down. One half is always going to be easier than the other. And put that down there. Put that down there. Put it down there. Make sure you put it all side by side. Okay. And there. Alright, and remember, you want to tighten those stitches up really as snug as you can so that you really have that distinct look. Okay, so we've just done our internal decrease. You now have half the number of stitches that you had. At this point, it says to knit from rows 45 to 50. Purl a row, knit 52 through 53, drawstring bind off. This is pretty self-explanatory. So you're going to do row 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 56 rows of knit back and forth. Then you're going to do 1 row purl, and then you're going to do 2 rows of knit. Okay? So you're doing 6 rows of knit at this point, where you're just going to knit over. So here's row 1. Alright, and then you go back and you do row 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this looks. So we're here, we do rows 45 through 50 knit, 51's purl, rows 52 through 53 knit. Go ahead and pause the video and get rows 45 through 53 done. It's pretty self-explanatory, nothing special. Then we're going to drawstring bind off and finish this up. Okay, I've done my rows, and now it says to ready to do a drawstring bind off. You can see your little pig here. Alright, so I've went ahead and cut me a nice long tail because I'm going to need to be able to sew up that snout, do any touch-up holes. I find it's best to start on the opposite side from where your tail is. And toss it over. And so just drawstring off. Okay, so what you should be ready to do is drawstring that together. Alright, and at this point you should be ready to sew up your snout. Okay, now because this is such a tight area, if you are doing safety eyes, I suggest you go ahead and do them now. A lot of times when I'm doing things this small, I tend to hot glue in some eyes, some little rhinestone eyes. But if you're going to be adding eyes, I'll show you how that's done. Okay. Alright, so what you want to do is, for doing the eyes, you want to line them up in the middle, and you want to find where that decrease is. You want to put it in there. Okay. I need to go smaller. Okay, so there's your decrease section. You'll know where it's at. You'll see it. Okay. And then what you want to do is you want to try to do it at the base of that decrease and put it in right there. See? And you'll do it the same on both sides. Okay. and you'll want to put them lined up in the middle of the ear to the base of the snout. Okay. But I'm probably just going to hot glue in my eyes. Alright, so that's how you want to do the eyes. If you're going to do the safety eyes, you want to add them in first, because it gets really difficult to go in and do this any other way. Once you go ahead and sew up the snout, you want it to be easier. So you want to sew up the whole section here. And what you'll find is you want to find the very edge. And a lot of times what you'll need to do is tighten, pull, and that straightens out your stitches. Okay? Because most of this is going to give, except for this seam. So be aware of that. And you want to try to find the very edge. Press it together while you're sewing. Okay? And sew the whole neck area up. Okay. Alright. And you reached that. Okay. Now, as you can see, you should be ready to go in and stuff. And because if you've stuffed your legs already with something this small, it should make it easier to go in. But you're going to be stuffing from the bottom. And my suggestion is do it a little at a time. And I'll tell you, the key to stuffed animals is shaping. Shaping, shaping, shaping. Okay. You do too much stuffing, that snout's going to push out too much. Alright. So, you don't always have to stuff excessively. Sometimes you can stuff too much. So try to stuff to a moderate amount where it's plushy and squishy, but not too little and not too much. Okay. You can see I'm already trying to do a little bit of shaping here. So just shove it in as much as you can without doing too much. And you'll know you're kind of doing too much if the stitches end up being a little too stretched. Right? Okay. See, there's room for a little bit more. And then I'm going to close at that back end. Okay. Because you got to include that you're going to be able to smush it out even further in the back end area. Right? So you're going to close up the back end. Alright. Here's where you do your finishing touches. Now you may need to do the star technique here on the back end. And you'll definitely want to weave in your ends on your tail. Okay. Now, those legs you're going to want to push back and push them forward. What you want to look for, and my technique typically makes it pretty rare that you don't have a whole lot of holes here. But if you do find you end up with a few of those holes, what you can do is you can go in and you can close them up. Okay. You can go in and you can close them up. You just go in and kind of do a little gather around. And then you pull it and you've basically closed it up. Okay. And if you feel like you got to do it in there, you can. This mostly shows up if you use a thinner yarn like this. This is a fingering weight. It's almost a little too thin for the 1/4 inch gauge. Okay. But As I said, most of the time when you're making stuffed animals, you want to go for the widest yarn you can get on the gauge. And so this is actually a little thin, so I'm not able to stuff it up as much as I normally do. But you go in and you just do a little all the way around, gather, pull it, and that side looks good. That one looks like it needs some work. So you just send your needle through, do a little gather section, and then we have one more side that looks like it might need a little extra. Okay, and that's not bad. Okay. Now, because I worked this all the way back here, as you can see, stretch your ears, start trying to push them more forward. Okay. There's your little snout. You can see a little pig you've just done. Alright, so I'm back here. I'm just going to go ahead and do my star pattern, but I'm going to be doing it a little differently and go straight up from where I'm at. Go over to the side, send it through. Go over to the other side, send it through. And go slightly diagonal. You're basically doing a 5 to 6 point. You pull that together, you see you close it off. Alright, tie this off, cut it, crochet, weave in those ends to the inside of the body, and you have it. Okay, so I'm going to cut that like that. And you take a crochet hook and you're going to go up and you're going to weave that up in there. You're going to go up in there and try to gather that up. Crochet hook and pull that in just like that. Okay. And then typically you want to weave that in and try to pull on it and get it as knotted as possible, and you can cut it short and put a little glue in if you see fit. Okay, but as you can see, here's your little pig. It looks like it needs a little pull in. Okay. There you have your little pig. Okay. Again, you want to put your eyes in. You may want to cinch your eyes. Sometimes I don't think it's necessary with a pig. Okay. There's your little tail. Alright. You can try to curl it in and weave that in such a way that it stays curled. It's up to you how you want to finish that tail off, but that is how you make a pig.